In this part of the film, we do not show special bodybuilding tasks, but only simple replacement work which you can do in your shops. The removal of the crank mechanism and the door panes begins with the removal of the inner door handle and the window crank. After removing the covering ledges, the fixing springs are pressed out and the inner door panel removed. The water protection strip is only gummed on and can easily be removed. You must take care to use no petrol or other remover for this purpose. The glass channel is then extracted. It is easier to take out the door pane if the crank mechanism is cranked half down. Before removing the rear door pane, the cranking mechanism must be unscrewed and pushed out of the lifting rail. The door pane is tilted with the pointed corner downwards and then lifted out. The door handle is secured with a 6 mm bolt. If it must be removed, then this locking plate must be pressed out of the channel groove. The bolt is forced out upwards with a drift, and the handle can be removed. The counter nut M8 of the crossbar bushing is unscrewed and the hexagonal screw withdrawn. The bushing must be held. The operating lever and the crossbar can now be removed. The remote control device must also be unscrewed. By assembly, care must be taken that the mechanism locks properly. Since it is difficult to introduce the springs at a later stage, they are put in first. The operating lever and the crossbar are then pushed upwards until the hexagonal screw M8 can be put in from the front. The remote control device is then put in place and secured with the hexagonal screw. When replacing the door handle, the tension spring must be drawn right back, otherwise the handle does not return to its proper position when released. After the bolt has been locked, the remote control must be adjusted if necessary. For this purpose, it is pushed forward in the slots until the exterior door handle rests on the rubber cushion. Now the proper fit of the closing wedges should be inspected. They should be so adjusted that the door is under tension when the crossbar bolt is engaged. The doors should close like this. The windscreen can be pushed out of the bodywork together with its framework and sealing rubber. The outer sealing rubber, which is 2 meters 900 millimeters long, should be brushed with glycerine and placed in the drawing-in device. This special tool makes the work much easier and decreases the danger of breakage. When the rubber is drawn in, care must be taken that the joint is in the middle of the bottom of the windscreen. Before the drawing in, the frame should also be brushed with glycerine. To prevent damage to the rubber, hardwood wedges should be used for the pressing in operation. Finally, the sealing rubber is pressed into the right place from inside. This ensures that the windscreen is properly sealed. The rear window is removed and installed in the same way. The Wartburg car, made by the Eisenach Car Works, has a 3-cylinder, 2-stroke motor which uses as fuel a mixture of oil and petrol. Before the fuel reaches the carburetor, it is filtered twice. Once in the riser pipe, which can be reached from the luggage boot, the second filter is in the fuel pump. This filter must be frequently cleaned. The cross-draft carburetor, type H362-6, made by the Berlin Carburetor Works, provides the fuel-air mixture. This carburetor is up to international standards and can meet all demands made on it. Removal begins with the detaching of the Bowden cable. The air filter is then lifted off. When removing the fuel pipe, pay attention to the 2 washers. Light sideways pressure removes the articulated rod from the carburetor lever. The carburetor can then be taken off. It consists of 3 pressure cast casings screwed together: the float chamber, the air pipe socket, and the mixing chamber. After removing the nozzle holding screw, and the main nozzle which is in it, and after removing the female screw, the float chamber can be taken off. The float chamber and the cover with the float valve are washed well with petrol and blown through. Particular care must be taken that the vent hole is not dirty and that this washer under the float valve is in good condition.